Hi everyone, Dave here, back in the anime corner and in the squeaky chair to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie, the Jujutsu Kaisen movie that I just came back from, actually. I recorded my third and final part to my Jujutsu Kaisen review just earlier today. Went and saw the movie, and here are some of my thoughts about it. It was really good. Sorry, excuse me. It was really good. For anyone who's like kind of on the fence about seeing it, which I don't really know who would be. If like you're a Jujutsu Kaisen fan, I feel like you'd probably seen it already. But it's good. It's really worthwhile. It's very worth it. I would recommend, it is a prequel, but to get some of the like little nuances and references into like, you know, other characters show up that you may not expect to show up, or at least some people that like aren't like crazy, like can't like little nice cameos that you're like, oh, I recognize that guy, or oh, I recognize that character. So I would definitely recommend at least watching up until the Kyoto Goodwill event arc, which ends at episode 21. But at that point, you know, you're 21 out of 24 episodes. You might as well finish the whole thing. I would at least watch maybe the first couple episodes of the Kyoto Goodwill event arc. So like maybe 14, 15, 16. And at the very least, I mean, it really doesn't matter, but to get the full, I guess, experience, I would recommend that. So yeah. So that's just like my little prerequisite for the movie. But the movie itself, again, was very good. So let's just jump into it. It is a prequel, so it is obviously very interesting to see younger characters, you know, to see younger versions of the characters, because the movie starts out with Yuta, which is a not necessarily new character, but a character that was briefly mentioned indirectly by Gojo in the beginning of the series as one of the sorcerers that could potentially surpass him in strength and in ability. He kind of joins Jujutsu High, not really by choice. You know, he's possessed by the spirit of his dead friend, and the spirit keeps kind of hurting people who bully Yuta because the spirit protects him. But, you know, Yuta kind of sees it as a burden because people around him keep dying. So he is very content on just shutting himself away for the rest of his life, never going outside again. But he changes his mind when Gojo mentions, well, won't you be lonely? You know, you don't want to be lonely, do you? And as someone who went and saw this movie by himself, can relate. Loneliness is a very big and powerful motivator. So I definitely can relate to Yuta saying, you know what, maybe not. Maybe I don't want to shut myself away for the rest of my life. So he goes to Jujutsu High, and there he meets Maki, Panda, and oh gosh, I always forget my man's name. Toge? I think is how Panda pronounced it. Toge. The guy who only speaks in rice ball ingredients. The three of them, at this point in the story, or in this movie, we know them, in the series proper, we know them as second years, but in this story, they're first years. So it's very interesting to see younger versions of our character, or of some of our favorite characters, and these three characters have a lot of screen time. So it was very cool to see, to get more time with them, because I don't think we got really enough time with these really good characters in Jujutsu Kaisen, because, you know, a lot of the focus was on the current first years, you know, Itadori, Megami, and Nobara, which makes sense, but the movie really did a good job about, you know, expanding these characters, flushing them out a little bit more, and giving us some quality screen time. There's, Yuta goes on a mission with Maki, he goes on a mission with Toge, and there's a lot of, quality Panda content that everyone, I'm sure, will get a lot of kick out of. He's a very funny character, and there's a lot of silly moments in the movie. But yeah, a lot of really cool moments with them, and it's it's just good. It's just good writing and good build up of these characters that we don't get to see. I thought Yuta's arc throughout the movie was very interesting. He starts out kind of as a bitch. He's a bit of a bitch in the beginning, but like it's understandable because he didn't really ask for this. But by the end, he becomes a badass, and the movie starts a little slow. I will say that, but it quickly picks up, and Yuta quickly kind of realizes that what he wants to do is protect people, which is kind of the common thing for all these characters is, I want to protect people, I want to be helpful. And another thing that, I really like about Jujutsu Kaisen is these are characters that have these crazy powers, but they're all fueled and backed by real human emotions, like, Yuta's desire to not want to be lonely, or a bunch of these characters wanting, the human desire, the innate human desire to like be a good person and help people. So it's, characters with real human emotions, but they just happen to have super crazy powers. And that's something that has quickly like drawn me to Jujutsu Kaisen. Because I just like how their characters are written, and I like how the characters are treated like real people. So I think, the story is really, really good, I think. The whole Yuta being possessed by the spirit of his friend, who they were little kids, and they were best friends, and they were they were in love with one another, and it's a story motivated by love, by loss, and it's something that's very real. And again, like I mentioned, it's a very real human emotion that I think anyone can relate to in some capacity, regardless of if it's an anime or not. It just so happens that they got crazy powers, and the girl's a crazy demon spirit, but like it's still fueled by a very real centered thing. So basically Yuta, starts at Jujutsu High, and he does, his training. He's training with the katana, which is pretty cool. Training how to basically break the curse to help, free his friend, who is, been cursed and been attached to him. And then they go up against Geto, which is really interesting, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Geto is a character already, like is one of the kind of main villains already. But I did a little bit of research, and I think like he's possessed by somebody, because spoilers, I guess this is all spoilers. This is not going to be a spoiler-free review, because there's just a lot that I want to talk about, or at least a fair bit. But anyway, near the end, or at the end, it seems like Gojo kills him. And it just kind of is like, all right, is he dead or not? And I did a little research, and I'm pretty sure that his body is still currently in the show, like with Mahito and that other guy. Like they're kind of the main bad guys. But also, he's like possessed by somebody. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. They could just be two similar looking characters, or there's something that I missed. But I kind of think that's what's happening in some capacity. I don't really know. But he's kind of their main villain. And he was a Jujutsu sorcerer as well. But he kind of turned his back on the school. So now, he wants to essentially kill Yuta, which is a very similar plot to season 1, where it's like, okay, a bunch of people want to kill Itadori because he poses some sort of threat, and now it's a bunch of people want to kill Yuta because he poses some sort of threat. So it's very familiar, which I guess could be a good and bad thing. It's it's good because it's familiar, but it's kind of bad because it's like, all right, this is basically the exact same plot. Not the exact same, but like a very similar plot. I didn't really mind it, but I definitely was sitting in the theater watching it going, okay, this is very familiar. This seems very in line with what we've seen so far from Jujutsu Kaisen. Um, but yeah, so the story was really good. A lot of really cool moments with the second year characters that I'll try not to spoil everything because there was a lot of cool, like, some touching moments, some very like funny moments, some like, oh, that's kind of cool moments. And some really cool cameos from some other characters that we know throughout the series so far. So it was always fun to see a familiar face pop up and be like, oh, I know that person. And that's what I mentioned in the beginning. Like, it's probably even though it is a prequel, it's probably beneficial that you at least have some knowledge of Jujutsu Kaisen. So a lot of those will hit a little bit better for you. Um, so I guess I wanted to talk a little bit, not story related, but the movie had a lot of really cool animation and cinematography choices. Like a lot of scenes had different varying styles of animation. You know, you have your typical like the regular like traditional style of whatever style the show goes for, and then you have those moments of like comedic mostly reserved for comedic moments where they'll like draw the characters in kind of a cutesier, bubbly more fashion. But then you've got that mixed with, when the powers happen, like when they may call on a spirit that kind of encapsulates their arm or whatever. And then that's its own animation style, which isn't, reserved to just the movie. We obviously have seen that in the show. But I think just seeing it on a big screen made it stand out a lot more, and that's something I really liked. I was like, wow, all these different colors and all these different, stylistic choices going on is really cool and really, just kind of stood out to me. And then on the cinematography front, I thought a lot of the camera choices were really interesting. Like, it's very subtle. There wasn't a whole lot of, like, things that were different. I mean, you got, obviously, your typical shots that you would see in an anime. And like I mentioned in my Jujutsu Kaisen, season 1 review, the fighting with this series has always been very fluid, very, again, I always say, whoever's directing these fight scenes has got to know a lot about fighting because they know the fluidity and the art of the dance. Or the dance of the fight or whatever terminology I'm trying to use here. But there were a couple scenes that really stood out to me as like really interesting cinematography wise, because there was one scene where Yuta was like fighting a bunch of like kind of littler enemies, and he was like cutting them up with his katana, and they briefly, very brief, but still good enough, but still cool enough to be like noticeable. It was like they went into like a first person mode, so they had his hands, and he was like film, and he was like film, and he was like film, and like it was very brief. It was kind of like a blink and you'll miss it type moment, but it was kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. And they had another moment where Gato sends out like a bunch of like spirits to like kind of distract everybody because he wants to go like kind of try to kill Yuta. But they had one moment where they're fighting and like there's the camera kind of turns and like then it kind of falls over, almost like it's like a found footage film, and somebody's like holding the camera and they drop it, like a movie like Cloverfield or something like that, where it falls over and then you see people kind of but you're laying like this. I mean, you guys understand what I'm saying, but I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Just like those little moments that kind of keep you invested in the film and be like, oh man, this must be a crazy battle because they knocked over the non-existent camera. This must be some sort of crazy event that's going on, and it's breaking the bounds of time and space. But again, it's just little things like that really help kind of keep you invested in this movie and kind of like really, help you zoom in on like, oh wow, that's really cool. So yeah, I think this movie was really good. There's a little bit I want to touch on. So the movie ends with a lot of questions, and I think things that could definitely be talked about in season 2. Now, again, I know the manga is further on. I don't read the manga. I have nothing against reading the manga. In fact, I might at some point. But at this point in time, the only Jujutsu Kaisen knowledge I have is from this movie and from, whatever is out of the anime. So I'm very interested in Yuta's future. Now, again, we may already, or you guys may already know that. I don't. So I'm going off of that knowledge. I want to see what happens with him. There's a scene at the end, which I won't spoil for you, but he's very much alive. And it seems like, and like I mentioned earlier, he was mentioned as one of the sorcerers who could pass up Gojo. So there's a lot that's going on with this guy and could potentially continue to go on with this guy. So I very much am very interested in seeing his future and seeing Geito's future as well. Because again, is he dead? Is he not dead? Is his body actually his body or is it somebody else's? I don't know. But then also like Geito's companions, he like managed to rally together a couple other Jujutsu sorcerers. A few of them didn't even have lines, so I think they were kind of just throwaway characters. But some of them, like, they kind of set up this, like, pair of, like, sisters or just, like, these two girls who, like, apparently Geito rescued from something and whatever. But it's, like, they were there for, like, 2 seconds, and that was it. So I understand there's not, you can't fit everything into, an hour and 45-minute long movie. So I get that. But it just, one, makes me interested. Okay, they would do all the work for these characters and then just not use them. I would find that to be a little bit of a waste of time. So it's like, okay, what's going to happen with these characters going forward? And also, it's like, why were they even really in the movie if they weren't going to be explained at all? So, again, I think it's a good setup. While this is a prequel to Season 1, I think it's also a very good setup to Season 2 because you have a lot of seeds planted to be like, okay, what's going on with these characters? Because we see them here. They're nowhere in Season 1, but, Season 1 ended with a lot of questions as well. So, okay, what's going to happen in Season 2? So that makes me very interested and honestly very excited because a lot of these characters are very interesting. They just didn't get a lot of screen time. So yeah, I really liked Jujutsu Kaisen 0. I thought it was really good. Very kind of solid. The story itself was pretty self-contained, but also left a lot open, for the future season or future stories, so that these characters still have a lot that we can know about, like that we want to learn about them, but it's also self-contained enough to where it's like, okay, I feel fulfilled. Like I feel fulfilled watching the movie. Like I wasn't left like, oh, well, fuck. Like I wasn't left wanting more because I felt like I didn't get enough. I wanted more because I was like, oh, they set up a lot of good stuff. So I'm very interested to see Yuta in his arc continuing. I want to see his future interactions potentially with Itadori and things of that nature. So I'm sure that gets talked about in the manga. Again, I haven't read the manga, but from what I've seen, it looks like it's gonna, it looks like Jujutsu Kaisen's really gonna kick into gear. I mean, it's already kicked into gear, but it's gonna kick into yet another gear in the coming years or months or however long it takes for that second season to come out. But yeah, I really like the movie. I don't normally do ratings, so I don't really know what I would give it, but I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed as well. Let me know in the comments if you saw it and what you think. I hope this review was worth something. I just kind of, went off my notes and kind of just talked about things a little bit. But all in all, very good. Very great characters, very cool story, a very cool arc, fun interactions with characters that we love, and characters that didn't necessarily get a whole lot of screen time in season 1 of the anime. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I have more stuff coming soon, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace. Guys, Dave here, back with one more thing that I noticed right from the beginning of the movie. Gojo's band around his eyes was white, and Yuta's jacket, everyone else's was black, his was white. That probably means nothing, but I don't know. Another thing I love about Jujutsu Kaisen is it loves taking little things and making them really substantial. And they don't ever explain that. They don't ever explain why inexplicably Gojo's eye covering is now white instead of black. And they don't explain why they give Yuta a white jacket. They just kind of do. So I don't know if that means anything. Let me know in the comments if that means anything. I legitimately don't know. But it just immediately hit me from the start of the film, and it's something that I really felt I needed to mention. So honestly, it's probably nothing, but it seemed cool to me. Okay, that's it. Thank you guys. Thanks again for watching, and hope you all have a great day. Okay, bye for real this time.